I also think of like all the Saw movies and things, but I know that they're not like, I mean, those are like body horror kind of. Yeah.
I'm not against gore, but it's not my go-to horror because again, I know how the sausage is made.
Right.
So I'm kind of like, okay, I know how they shot that scene. I know, it kind of takes me out of it. But for some reason, the Saw movies, I really got into.
Yeah.
Like those were really good. I've never seen, we can start.
No,
we can talk about this later. But.
No, I listen, I'm happy that we started here because this is what I do anyways. I always have us do like a little cold open before we get into it. Just so we get used to like sitting and talking in the mics and everything. But I'm going to do our intro. Welcome to By George, an 80 Players podcast here at the George Theater. I am your host and marketing associate, Miranda Zapes, and today I have with me...
I am Bob Smiley, and I am the guest, and I am a marketing associate as well.
Yes.
Jesse gave me that title right when I walked in.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if he wants to talk to you later about your future here, but this is probably going to take a bad turn.
So... I'll just hand over the podcast to you now. So
I would like to see how you did it and then see where you went,
I've got
astray, and then I'll make improvements. I don't even know you this well enough to start out this way. This is a terrible way.
No, this is perfect. I love it. Now I know what the vibes are, and I'll be able to throw it back now. So
here's the honest truth. I'm a little nervous because ever since I was a little kid, one of my goals was to play at the Gorge. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
So just being at this theater, that my great-grandfather took me to when I was... How long's the theater? I don't know very much about the theater. Was it back then?
It was...
Because I want this to sound truthful and heartfelt.
No, I know. I don't know what you're talking about because I think it's before my time, but we've been around since the 60s, I want to say.
Okay, so way before my time.
Yeah. Right.
We'll cut away so the video doesn't pick up the look, right? Because
right, yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, it's an honor to be here.
No, thank you so much for coming. So I first want to let our audiences know, who you are. So you're a stand-up comedian. You're going to be doing a show for us come September. But kind of give us a little bit of backstory. How did you get to this point? How did you I know that you didn't think you were going to be a stand-up comedian. You didn't grow up that way.
Look who did their research.
I did a little bit.
It's impressive.
But I want to know how you kind of fell into it.
That's a great question. I grew up with an incredibly funny dad. My dad is, to this day, still, he's still as funny. He just says words slower now because he's much older. So you have to kind of wait,
Yeah.
It's like whenever, because we have an older dog and, he still likes to play chase, but now you have to throw the ball into his mouth. It's more like a game. And that's the way my dad is. You can see it popping off in his brain and he knows something funny, but it takes him a little bit of while.
You gotta, okay.
But back when I was a kid, he was so quick-witted, and I noticed everybody would gravitate to him because he was the funny guy, and he's just a good, solid dude. And so my dad has been my hero forever. And because he was funny, I would watch him and realize that comedy was such a tool of being able to walk into a room, command a room. Also, if somebody was having a bad day, he was started out as a football coach, then became a principal and a superintendent. So he could walk into a classroom where a teacher was having a bad day, crack a couple of jokes, and it changed that person's perspective of the day. And so I was fascinated that at a very early age. Plus, I loved comedies. I loved stand-up. And when my dad realized that kind of became our thing. So my dad would let me stay up the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. If there was a comedian, he would let me stay up and watch the monologue. And then if there was a comedian on, he'd let me stay up and watch the comedian and stuff. So I always had a healthy respect for comedians. Never thought I could do it. Never. But I just realized that comedy was super important. I feel like it's a gift that God has given us. And so I wanted to acquire that. I wanted to have that in my quiver, to go. I've told this story in several podcasts, but I remember I was in second grade and the teacher had a math question. And I remember it was 5 birthday candles plus 3 birthday candles. And the teacher called on this kid named Lloyd. I remember this so vividly. And he went up to the chalkboard. It was public school, so we didn't know how to do math and wasn't going to learn.
Right.
But that's terrible. I shouldn't say that. But he couldn't figure it out. And so the teacher goes, can anybody help? And for some reason, the teachers liked me to be, I guess because of my build, I look like a security guard. So they always wanted me in the back of the room, I guess to survey in case something happened. But my teachers always put me in the back corner. And so the teacher goes, can anybody help with this question? And I raised my hand and she called me Bobby. And she was like, Bobby. And I got out of my desk, and by the time I got to the front of the room, I'd already thought of my set list. Like I'd already thought of a joke.
Whoa.
And so I got up in front of the crowd. And I'm going to tell you, listeners, this is not a good joke. And if you come to see me in September, this is not the kind of comedy you're going to get.
Yeah.
But I was in second grade, and I got up to the chalkboard, and I go, well, you have 5 birthday candles. And I held up 5 fingers, and I go, and you're adding 3 birthday candles. So you just add those together and you just count them and you end up with 8 birthday candles. Come on, Lloyd. It's a piece of cake. Yeah. And see, that's the exact response. That's the exact response I got from the whole class.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Except my teacher, Miss Brown, she looks down at me and she goes, And that was it. That's all I got.
Yeah.
But the reason why that stands out in my memory is because at the end of the day, as the bell rang, I was getting ready to leave, and she called me back to her desk, and she was like, I was having such a bad morning, and I have thought of that silly birthday candle joke all day, and it just, so thank you for just brightening my day. And I walked out of that room, even though I was just, a second grader, I walked out of that room going, oh, comedy is powerful.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know what I was going to end up doing. I was kind of following my dad's footsteps. I was going to be a teacher and then a principal and hopefully a superintendent. I do think education is super important. Sorry, my funky. I have it silenced. I mean,
I promise you, these mics are so sensitive, it won't pick it up.
It won't. It won't. Will it even pick up what I've been saying?
No, it will.
Okay,
it will.
all right.
You're close enough to it.
Yeah,
but
because I drove an hour and a half. I'm just saying. For you listeners, I put in the work here.
And if it doesn't end up working out, we'll just find somebody. Jesse will dub it for you.
Dub it?
Don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So grew up loving comedy. Grew up all that. Didn't think I'd ever do it. My junior year in college, did a stand-up competition. Did it for the prize money. Was not thinking that this was something I could do. But ironically, when I got to college, everybody kept telling me that I was going to be a stand-up comedian. The first week I was there, this guy came up to me. I did not know him at all, but we have what's called Welcome Week. I went to Abilene Christian University. They have Welcome Week, and so we kind of all got to know each other a little bit, but I didn't know this guy's name. And he just walks up and he goes, you should do a bit later about hotel soap, of how small they are. And I was like, what do you mean do a bit? And he goes, like when you're doing stand-up, you should do a bit because the hotel soap is so small. And I was like, yeah, I don't do stand-up. And he goes, yeah, but you will. And then he just walked off, and I was like, wait, and stuff like that happened all the time. It's like people just assume because I was a funny guy that I was pursuing comedy, but I never thought that, I mean, I grew up in a town with 281 people in it. I grew up in a little farm town. Like nobody went off and became a comedian.
Right.
And so I did the stand-up competition because first prize was $500. Which in Abilene, Texas is still like 6 months rent.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of money. And so I did it. I won, not even because I was good. Everybody else was terrible. They were just not good at all. And I thought, what a great story I'll be able to tell my kids. I won a stand-up competition one time. And then 2 years later, I graduated. Before I became a teacher, I wanted to see what it was like to make money. And so I had been doing summer work for a photographer. And so he wanted to hire me full time. So I did that for a year so I could kind of build a nest egg. I'm very debt-free kind of guy. And then I was going to start teaching. And at the end of that year, this guy randomly... This is going to tell people how old I am. Okay. So I don't know if I'm comfortable, but my pager went off. Yeah. I made that kind of money.
Yeah.
And so my pager went off. I pulled the 8-track out of my radio in my car. I checked my fax machine. I'm just seing how many references.
Listen, and I'm getting all of them. I just need you to know that I'm cool.
You're tracking.
I've got.
Okay. Yeah. So I pulled over abruptly. So my record player scratched that I had in the passenger seat. And Nowadays, that could actually be true because they're coming back. Record players coming back. Nobody's buying mine on eBay, but I'm told that they're coming back.
I was going to say, I don't know if in the passenger seat, but I think they're coming back.
Yeah. So pulled over to Cracker Barrel payphone, called this number, had no clue. Yeah. I thought it was a photography thing. And the guy was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but we used to hang out in college. I'm now a road manager for a Christian singer, and we're leaving for tour in 2 weeks. And the singer wants a comedian to come out and kind of keep the crowd entertained. And I saw you do that stand-up competition, and you were really funny, and you were clean. Do you want to go on tour? And I'm literally standing at a Cracker Barrel payphone.
Right.
And I was so nonchalant because I didn't know it was about to change my life. And I was like, well, how long's the tour? And he was like, 6 weeks, but it may be 8. And I remember just going, okay. Like just so.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I guess I'll go try this. I was kind of getting ready to start teaching, but I'll go out on tour, you know, like you do. And so I hung up. I booked a one-way flight to Nashville, got off the plane, got on a tour bus, and went out as a comedian. Wow. And I'd done stand-up twice in my life at that point. And so I'm literally on the plane, Southwest Airlines, not a sponsor, but should be. But I'm on the plane, like writing as much comedy as I can think of, because I hadn't been writing because I didn't think I'd ever need to do it. I had jokes about the college and about Abilene, and that was it. And then all of a sudden I'm out on tour with this Christian singer, and they had these lights, they had these moving lights that kept breaking. So anytime they broke, guess what they did? Hey, circus monkey, get up there and dance for people. And so that's where I learned how to do comedy, because I had my little 15-minute set that I would do. And then I had a merch pitch right before the intermission. And this was all in churches and stuff. Okay. But I would wear all the t-shirts because they were like, we really want you to do something that would highlight the band's merchandise. And so I put on all the t-shirts and I would take them off one by one. And like the opening band was a band called Anointed. So I remember one of the jokes I wrote, because they had a shirt that just had a big red A on it. Yeah. And I was like, Anointed's got a shirt with a big red A on it. Some of you college kids, it's your only chance to get an A. You better take advantage. Just stuff like that. Right, but I'm like, just boom, 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 boom. And I had a joke for each shirt. But halfway through, and I can't believe I did this, but halfway through, I would stop and I go, I do want to point out that I am the only Christian stripper currently working. And but with a body like mine, girls usually chant, put it on, put it on. Like, I never even thought about that being offensive to anybody. Right. But I never got any flack because what I was doing was so unique. Nobody was doing a funny merch pitch, like fast paced. And so I did that, and then this Christian band called the Newsboys saw me, and they asked me to open for them. That's wild. And then a band called the Supertones saw me on the Newsboys tour and asked me to open for them. So for the first like 3 or 4 years, I was literally just touring with bands. Right. And I kept thinking I would finish, and then I would go back and start teaching. And so it wasn't really until about 5 years into me doing comedy full time that it actually dawned on me that, oh, maybe this is what I do. Like maybe I could actually be a comedian. So that's how I got into it.
That's incredible. So you hear the stories of like other comedians that you need to go to like the dive bars or whatever.
Open mic nights.
Open mic nights and everything. Yep. But you were just thrown, you're like, okay, here's your, and you just have to. Yeah.
And you're exactly right. That's how most people do it. They write a 3-minute bit and they go to open mic nights and they bomb for years and hope to keep working up stuff. Yeah. But the flip side, and I'm very blessed that I feel like God kind of opened the door and kind of kicked me through it because I wasn't pursuing it, and I felt like God was like, okay, well then I'm gonna make it super obvious. You're gonna get a phone call, and to go on tour, but. Like kids will come up, because I do all clean comedy. So kids come up to me after the shows and they're always like, I want to be a comedian. What do I do? And I'm like, you do a stand-up competition your junior year in college, and then you buy a beeper, and then you wait for somebody to call you. You find a Cracker Barrel payphone. Yep. Like I have the worst advice of how to do it, but that's how I ended up doing it.
So you do clean comedy and you've always done clean comedy. So that wasn't something, was there ever an active choice that this is what I'm going to be doing? Or is that just how your humor has always been?
It's always how my humor's been.
Okay.
So comedians, they talk about finding your voice.
Right.
You want to find your voice. The good comedians, they talk about their life. They're not just doing random, street jokes or stuff like that. And so to talk about your life, well, I do try to live a good Christian life. So, and I'm not perfect, and I sin. I sinned on 45 driving down here because of this lady in a Toyota. We won't go into it, but I'm.
Did you get your license plate?
I have her license plate number. I will. Yeah, you guys have a pretty good computer system here. We may see if we can track that lady down, but because I want to forgive her. As a good Christian should. But no, so I try to write, about my life and things in my life, and I try to live a good, clean life. So naturally all the stuff is, that I write about, it happens to be clean. I love that people can come to my shows, and I write a book series for middle school kids.
Right.
And so especially lately, because we started, so it's called the Average Boy book series. And Average Boy is this, middle school kid. He's, he's not really good at anything, but he wants to be. And so he's always getting in these adventures and stuff. And so we started a Average Boy podcast for families to listen to with their kids. So they have something, and we try to do it like Looney Tunes, where it's funny for the kids, but it's also funny for adults. I grew up with the Muppets and Looney Tunes. So that kind of humor, definitely shaped. So I'm watching the Muppets, and my dad is laughing at something that I don't get.
Right.
It wasn't inappropriate, but it was just, something that was more for adults and stuff. So we try to make the Average Boy podcast like that. So something that parents don't mind listening to with their kids, because they're getting some jokes out of it too. The whole reason I want to tell you that boring story, it wasn't to tell people to go look up the official Average Boy podcast. I would never self-promote like that. Or the 4 Average Boy books that are out in the series so far. But here's why I bring it up. Now, because the podcast is blown up, I have a ton of parents bringing their kids to the show. And I do the voice of Average Boy because evidently I sound like a junior high kid. Yeah. The first day that we re-recorded, and it's put out with Focus on the Family. Okay. And so I'm in the studio, and Average Boy's a middle school kid. So at first I was like, welcome to the official Average Boy podcast. I started to make my voice a little higher. And the producer goes, no, you can use your real voice. And I go, no, he's supposed to be a junior high kid. And he goes, yeah, we're good. Still rolling? I was like, okay, I get it. But it's fun. It's fun to see parents bring their kids to the shows.
Right.
And they don't know me as a comedian. And then I go out on stage, and I can see kids' faces of that's Average Boy. Yeah. No way. And so I like that I only do clean comedy.
Yeah.
So families can bring their kids. They can bring their grandma. The other night, I looked down, and there was a grandmother sitting next to her grandson, and her grandson was the exact opposite. So she had a shawl, and she had a walker, and she was very, very the horn rim glasses from the 60s and everything. This dude had purple hair. He had all the face piercings and stuff. My joke is he looks like he fell face first into a tackle box. He literally looked like that. And they're just sitting there, and they're laughing together.
Yeah.
And I love that she brought him, and I got to talk to him afterwards. I love that she brought him because she knew it was going to be clean, and they could laugh together without feeling, kind of awkward or, anything like that. And so I really... I do clean comedy because of my faith, but I also do clean. I think even if I wasn't a Christian, I would do clean comedy because I want to do comedy for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
It brings, there's a community in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody can enjoy it.
Which makes me feel terrible because we started, when I first sat down with you, talking about Saw.
No, yeah. Well,
so I like to make people laugh, but I love to watch people get cut up.
Well, okay. So many questions now. I always feel, because I like to think of myself as a funny person. I don't think I could ever get up on stage and do comedy the way that you do it. But I see a lot in in like my friends and the other people that I've interviewed that they will do comedy or they'll enjoy comedy, but they also love horror. Like how, I guess I just kind of want to know your opinion. How do those kind of like mesh for you personally?
That's a great question. And it's a question I've never been asked before. I think I like horror movies or thrillers or those kind of movies because my whole life is silly and funny. And most of my friends are professional comedians.
Yeah.
And so we live in a bubble of really good top tier comedy. My wife is very funny. My kids are very funny. Like I said, my dad is very funny. So I'm surrounded by comedy and silliness all the time.
Right.
So when I sit down to turn my brain off to watch something, I don't want to see comedy because a lot of times I can watch something and go, oh, I see what they're about to do.
Right,
They're setting up. It's, or if I watch comedy specials, I can see like, okay, that's his setup. He's going to have a setup, and then the punchline. There's the punchline. Now he's going to have a tagline. Like I know too much about comedy and I kind of know where the comedian is steering the crowd. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy watching stand up, but if I'm going to sit down and turn my brain off, I want it to be something that's totally not my life.
Right.
And so horror and thrillers and all that kind of stuff is, things that I'm really into. And that's a great way for me to turn off my brain and feel like I've escaped my world, even though I love my world, but sometimes you just want to sit and eat some popcorn and enjoy something different.
I went to school for a film. I graduated from Houston Christian University.
Oh,
and
wow.
So in doing the program, you get to that point where you're like, I know too much about how this is all done that I feel like I can't even really enjoy it anymore.
Yeah.
Because all I'm doing is analyzing every scene like, oh yeah, that's going to happen and this is going to happen and that, whatever. But then you get to, it's weird because it comes back to a point where you're like, full circle and no, I can't enjoy this. These are the certain types that I know I can just turn my brain off to. So it's interesting to hear that it's the same way for you as well.
I did that last night because I don't know when this is coming out, but you guys were very gracious and let us come see Wizard of Oz last night, and it was phenomenal. And afterwards, I was thinking of like how they did everything, how they put together the scenes, but during the actual play, I was able to turn my brain off and just enjoy it. And it was so good. Like it was, and I love how you guys were, are you part of that? Are you?
I am.
Okay. I assume, but I didn't want to like.
No, yeah.
But well, of course you are because you've got the star.
Okay. I do. Toto is my dog if you've come in to see The Wizard of Oz, but
kind of stole the show last night.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to say it. But.
Yeah. Well, you slipped me the paper and I read it. And so I hope I said it exactly the way you wanted me to. Yes. But no, I loved how you guys stayed true enough to the original, but then also just changed a little bit of things, almost in every scene, just one little thing that added a little bit more humor to it. It was really well done.
Yeah, little modernizations. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't want to give anything away, but to have them all die at the end I was not expecting that.
And honestly, we didn't know how audiences would react, but everybody is saying that is their favorite part.
Yeah.
So
I think having the play go 6 hours, people were ready for them to die. So I think that's where you guys did really well. But I don't want to give too much away.
No, obviously not.
Yeah.
Going back to being a clean comedian, and you sound very family-oriented. You want families to come and enjoy the show. I want to know, because I've listened to other interviews that you've done and everything that you're going. You seem to be touring a lot and going out a lot of places. How does that kind of coincide with you being a family man?
My kids and my wife are very expensive. And so I have to go out and tour nonstop. No, I actually, people look at my calendar and it's fairly full, but if you really put it up against the actual calendar, I'm not gone that much. I'm normally gone Friday, Saturday, sometimes just one time a week. I'm actually, tonight I'm about to post a Throwback Thursday video on my Instagram, Facebook, and it's last Father's Day, not this last one, but 2 years ago. I'm on stage because I was working on Father's Day, and my kid calls me in the middle of my show, which this kid, he loves to do that. He thinks that's the funniest thing.
Yeah.
But I also knew he was kind of calling to wish me happy Father's Day. And so I took the call and I was like, hey, daddy's working his hour a week. And of course the crowd laughed, but I was like, That's true. I'm working an hour a week. And so the schedule works out that I'm usually home more than most husbands and fathers. The way I balance that is I try to get all my work done on the road. So when I'm in the hotel and have downtime, I'm booking my flights, my hotel. I'm writing on the plane. You know, especially with the Average Boy podcast, we're doing twice a month now. So I have to write all the scripts. And so I'm not going to take time away from my family to sit in my office and write. So when I'm home, I try to just be home. But I try to maximize my time out on the road. So when I'm on a flight, I'm not watching a movie, I'm writing. If I'm in a hotel, you know, I'm writing, or I'm, you know, like I said, booking hotels or whatever I need to do so that when I get home. So I think that's really the only way to do it if you travel, is that you have to maximize your travel time. And then when you're home, you're just throwing the football and, you know, doing all that and letting your kids heckle you because you can't really throw a football, but you know.
But we do our best.
We do our best.
Have you ever gotten pushback for being a clean comedian?
I don't do a lot of clubs, a lot of comedy clubs, but there has been times that I've been booked at a comedy club and I've gotten pushback or just criticism from other comics. For a while, I was going down to the Houston Improv, and I wanted to do open mic nights because I feel like I skipped that part.
Right.
And I just wanted to go down there and you know, see what it was like. And so I started going down there, and I got a lot of comics that they're not even like full-time comics. They're just like trying it, but say negative things about me, you know, like, oh, you're not doing real comedy, or that's not, you know, people will say, and actually I'm going to change my answer. I get a ton of feedback on Instagram.
See, that's what I was going to wonder on social media.
I always kind of forget about that because I'm so thick-skinned as just being a comic that kind of stuff doesn't bother me anymore. So I kind of don't even think about that as negative. I just think about in-person deals. But yeah, on social media, every time I post something, somebody will say, true comedy isn't funny unless it's dirty, or, you know, this would be funnier if you'd throw in some, you know,
whatever.
Dirty jokes. I think this is an interesting story. We'll see.
I'll let you know.
Do you need some coffee before I tell us? I'm really nervous this isn't going to be an interesting story. But I was actually on vacation with my family, and this dry bar comic, you know what dry bar is? Like, so this other comic that had a dry bar special called me up, and he's like, hey, I can't make it down to South Houston. Are you going to be in town next weekend? I think it was a Sunday night. It was a night I actually had off. And he was like, could you go do the show? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, it's I forget what it was even called, but I think an active living community. So it was for senior adults. It's like a retirement community.
Okay.
Everybody drives golf carts and plays pickleball and puzzles. Like it was, and it's awesome. Like I drove down there and did it. But so the comic replaced me. Like he called the people that booked him and said, hey, I can't do it, but I got a guy that I think will be good. So the day of, the actual guy that's putting on the event calls me and he's like, hey, it's going to be, everybody's going to be 55 years old or older, and they'll come in, they'll get their drinks. Then we want you to do an hour. And we don't want it to be really raunchy. And I was like, oh, well, you don't have to worry about that because I only do clean comedy. And I'm talking to him on the phone for the first time. And this is not a normal thing. Like normally you book shows 3-4 months out and all that, and you go over everything. But this was a last minute replacement. And he goes, there was a pause, and he goes, well, we want a little raunchy. And I was like, oh, well, then I might not be your guy. And he's like, no, it'll be fine. Just do your normal stuff. Just throw in some cuss words. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I guess you didn't do a lot of deep dive in who I am, but like, I'm not going to do that. And he goes, okay, well, just, you're coming from the Woodlands, right? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, okay, just on the drive down, just think of some sex jokes. And I was like, I don't think you're understanding me. I'm not, like, I only do clean comedy. I've built a brand. I've built trust in my audience of people who come to see me that I'm not going to, you know, I'm not trying to push the envelope or any of that stuff. And he was like, okay, well, we'll just see how it goes. And I got down there and the crowd came in and it was exactly like I said. Everybody, they said 55 or better. I don't think there was anybody there that could remember being 55, but they all came in and they didn't get their drinks. They brought their drinks. Everybody brought a bottle of wine, a whole bottle, and set it up there. And the guy who was disappointed that I wasn't going to be raunchy gets up and he's like, well, we had a last minute replacement. We really hope that you guys don't mind. Here's comedian Bob Smiley. And I walked up and I go, hey, yeah, this was a last minute replacement. So I don't really know what event this is, but I'm guessing it's not AA. And the place went nuts.
Yeah.
And then I just had them.
Yeah, of course.
And I did an hour of totally clean comedy and they all lined up to like tell me like how much they enjoyed it. And I'm not telling this story to make me look good, but I'm telling you the story because afterwards I realized the elderly people didn't want raunchy stuff. The young event, planner, he just wanted it. And he even told me that afterwards. He was like, man, I was kind of bummed that you weren't doing anything dirty, but that was a solid show and stuff. So I think a lot of people, because there's so much dirty stuff out there, people do have kind of a critic's mind whenever you hear clean comedy. And clean comedy's gotten so much better. Back in the 80s when I was a kid, even I would, you would hear clean comedy and you'd think, oh, a puppet show or, oh, it's going to be, he's probably going to juggle and, trip on the steps going up on the stage. It's going to be, not more cheesy than good. But now I think with buddies of mine like John Chris and Tim Hawkins and stuff, you hear clean comedy now and people think, oh, let's go and it's probably going to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just think it's interesting. I mean, everything that I did think that was an interesting story, by the way. So,
oh, good.
But I think it's really interesting and something that I mean, the whole reason that we have the podcast is to try and get in a younger audience and to like play with the algorithm on TikTok and everything. Oh, yeah. But I think there's a stigma around like clean comics that, oh, it's going to be childish and it's going to be cheesy and that's not the case. And everything that, I mean, and we've been so desensitized to like, what is comedy and it has to be raunchy and it has to be this and that. I was watching some of your specials in preparation for this and was surprised.
You were the one. Okay. Yeah, exactly. I noticed that there was an extra hit.
Oh, okay, perfect.
On YouTube. No, actually, I shouldn't have interrupted you. Go ahead. You were saying I watched your stuff and I want the listeners to back up about 15 seconds and hear how she started with, I watched your stuff and I was surprised
that it was really funny.
All right, can we bring Jesse in? I'm ready for him to interview me.
No, it's
I totally get it though because so I started in '96. That's whenever I first started, and again, I didn't know what I was doing. But in '98 when I got off the tour with the Newsboys, the Supertones hadn't contacted me yet, so I was like, do I keep pursuing this? And so I cut a deal with a booking agent because I was living in Nashville. And I cut a deal with a booking agent that was in Nashville. And I just walked in the office. This is, again, not how you do the career.
Right.
But I didn't know. And so I walked in and I go, hey, I'm a comedian and I do mostly churches. I just got off tour with this band called the Newsboys. And at the time, they were like the #1 like band.
Right.
I was like, hey, I want to book a tour with me and this other singer. And this other singer was named Riley Armstrong. And he had just gotten off tour with Audio Adrenaline, which was another big Christian band. Okay. And so we naively thought that we had enough clout that we could at least tour, churches and stuff. And so I cut a deal with them. I said, if I can use your database with all your church numbers and all your venue and theaters and coffee houses and, everything, and if I can use your phones and just sit and make phone calls, I will pay you 5% of whatever I book. And the guy was like, yeah, we don't really do that. And then he thought about it. And so I left my number and he called me back the next day and he was like, we do have an empty desk if you want to come in and do it yourself. And I was like, okay. And so I went in and this is not how you do comedy.
Yeah.
But I ended up booking 103 shows for like the next year and a half.
Yeah.
Now, they were terrible shows. They were like coffee houses and stuff like that. But for the next year and a half, like me and this guy, he had a van and we just drove And I would do like 3 shows a week, and then we'd come back, to our families, and we just did that for a while. And that's really kind of where I learned, because I was getting stage time. I was getting an hour a night.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like 3-minute open mic night, and then you got to go home and wait till the next weekend to do your next 3 minutes and stuff. But I feel like we got way off topic.
No.
What were you? I felt like this was.
Well, I was saying that I actually found your comedy
you found me
specials
funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason why I tell you that is because I would call people, and people would say, theater people would say, you do clean comedy? No, we're not interested. We like good comedy. We like, because back then there wasn't a lot of good, clean, especially in churches and stuff. There was not a lot of good Christian comedians. It was all like, oh, where do you want to set up your flannel graph? Kind of stuff. And so I feel like a lot of these guys that I'm friends with, we've kind of raised the bar. And like Nate Bargatze is now all of a sudden, you're seeing a lot more people, a lot more venues open to having clean comedy, because they're like, oh, it can be phenomenal. Like, it can be good. And now whole families can come see you.
Right, exactly.
And so, so I appreciate the, are we going to call it a compliment?
It was meant to be a compliment.
Oh, okay. Well, you might want to work on the wording next time, but I was shocked. I laughed a couple times.
My goodness. Yeah. No, it was fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, we're almost out of time here, so I'm going to do our last little, I call them my lightning round questions. You don't have to answer them super quickly, but they're the same 3 questions that I kind of ask everybody that I have on. What is the worst mishap you've had on stage?
Oh, okay. So 2. One was doing a youth conference at like 800 kids up in Minnesota. Walked out, and this was after I quit touring with bands and started doing my own shows. I did a lot of youth groups, because none of my comedian friends that were Christian comedians, they were frightened of teenagers, and so I wasn't frightened. So I would get every single youth group, and so I got booked for this conference, and so I walk out, and so at the time I really had a tight hour of material that was good for teenagers, and so I kind of walked out on stage a little cocky, like, I got this, and I'm killing up in the balcony. I'm killing all in the back. First 5 rows, not laughing, no eye contact, no. And I get through my hour, and I go back to the green room, and I sit down, and I'm like, this is going.
Yeah, okay.
I sit down, and I'm like, what in the world? And I look down, and my pants had split right before I went on stage, evidently. They had this horrible, the green room only had like a beanbag chair that you had to like sit weird like. And I guess when I stood up, I just ripped my pants right in the middle, the TP part of, I'm trying to keep it clean. So there were youth leaders coming up after the show. I, of course, changed my pants and went out to my merch table, and they thought it was part of the act. They thought I was doing that to get a laugh. And I was like, dude, why would I do that? Especially for 800 people, like it's not going to be funny for the balcony, So that was really embarrassing, because that was it. But probably the weirdest mishap was I was doing the show, and they it was kind of a big venue, and this band was playing, and it was an unknown band, but they were wanting to make it and everything. And so they're walking off, and the back setup was like an old like lake cabin. So you had to walk out on stage through a screen door. And so they finished their song, and then the announcer goes, now, ladies and gentlemen, comedian Bob Smiley. So I walk out of the screen door, and I start walking down the steps, and the band has to leave through the screen door to go backstage. So I let some of them go by. Well, the bass player was out there just milking the applause and all this stuff. And so as I walked down off the stairs, people could see me. Now, I'm not famous or anything, but when I walked out, the cheers got louder because they had come to see me. And the bass player thought that they were cheering again for him. So he spins around, and he clips me with his bass guitar, the little turny knobbies. I don't want to get technical on here, but the little turny knobby things. And it perfectly slices my arm. And it hurts, but I got the adrenaline rolling, like I'm ready to go out and start my show. So I go out, and I'm about a minute and a half into my show, and I look to the left, and again, like first 3 rows to my left, they're kind of looking at me, and I look down, and my left arm is just like a shower curtain of blood. Whoa. just pouring down my arm. And then that's whenever I was like, oh, he sliced me. He didn't just hit me. And so I didn't stop. I just like walked over to the side of the stage right, and got a towel. And I'm still leaning my head.
Exactly.
Hey, still in it. And just got a towel. And I did the rest of the show just holding my arm with the towel. And so that was probably the biggest mishap. These lightning rounds are great. I love telling fast, quick stories like that.
What was the last joke that made you laugh the hardest?
The last joke that made me laugh the hardest. On stage?
Sure.
Okay. It's my buddy Tim Hawkins. You didn't mean my stuff, right? You meant like that made me laugh?
Made you laugh, yes.
Tim Hawkins has a new song about Karen.
Okay.
And yeah, it's all the things that a Karen would do. And he sent it to me, and I remember just sitting in my office laughing like a fool, like gut-wrenching laughs. So yeah, I can't think of any of the lines, and he probably wouldn't want me to say it because it's a new bit that he's doing. But yeah, that actually made me laugh like really loud.
Okay, we'll keep a lookout for it whenever we can find it. And lastly, why should people come see you do stand-up at the George?
Because the world is on fire and everything is terrible. And so we need a break. We need a break in a good air conditioning room where you can come and you can laugh and not feel bad, not feel like you need a shower afterwards, not feel dirty. We want you to come here and take a break, escape reality, and just enjoy yourself for a while. That's why you should come.
Absolutely.
Also, I got 5 kids at home. I really need you to show up and buy a ticket. I got 2 at Texas A&M, so buy a ticket and bring merch money, please.
You beat me to it. I was going to slide in that I had given you another note of what exactly to say.
No, it's a beautiful theater, and it's just a fun time.
Yeah.
Like, it's a great time to come out and laugh. And
Absolutely.
I'm really goofy, and I also think you guys did a good job of picking, because I have 2 other comics with me, and I think the diversity in that there's gonna be something for everybody.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this episode with us.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. I know you're about to do another one with Jesse, but just let him know that you laughed harder at my episode.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I have nothing left.
Okay.
So
great.
I used all my A material today with you.
I won.
Yeah, you won.
Guys, come check out Bob Smiley on September 12th at 7:30 p.m. here at the George Theater. We can't wait to see you guys here. And thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. And we'll see you next time. This has been By George, an 80 Players at the George Theater podcast, hosted and produced by Miranda Zapes. Listen anywhere you listen to podcasts and follow us on Instagram at By George Theater. That's THEATRE. Sure to like, share, and subscribe. And By George, we'll see y'all next time.
Yeah. I just wanted to thank you, now that we're not recording, for not asking me about my basketball record at my high school, because everybody looks that up and they're like, oh, you scored 42 points against Prosper and it's still the record at your school. And people want to talk about that all the time. And I'm like, can we just talk? Let's move on. That's in the past. I'm not holding on to that or anything. I mean, I call once a year to make sure I still have the record, and I do. But anyway, thank you for not doing that.
No, yeah, of course.
Awesome. That was fun, man. You're great.
Thank you so much.